worked hard.
They did. We need to take the question, I guess. So we're just going to get started, but before we get going, there's a couple of administration kind of things I need to do. So because we're outside of university hours, I need to tell you about fire. So there's no fire drill scheduled for this evening, so if we do hear the fire alarm sound, we have to make our way to the nearest exit. So if you follow myself, I will take you out to the muster point, and Callum will lead up the rear. That's that.
Yeah. So hello, please take a seat. Yeah, we're just going to do a really quick 5-minute whirlwind introduction to the topic of de-extinction and try and make sure everyone knows what we're talking about before the debate teams get started and really get stuck into it. And we've ended up calling ours Pigeon Drool, Dinosaurs Drool, and that's because we sat and picked apart Jurassic Park and the reasons why Jurassic Park is scientifically the worst movie ever.
So there's several reasons why Jurassic Park is not very scientifically accurate. Mostly because most of the dinosaurs are way too big.
Yeah, Jurassic Park was bad for this, but it got worse and worse as the series went on, with Jurassic World really taking the biscuit, with dinosaurs bigger than any animal that's ever existed.
Also in the movies, the time frame is completely wrong, because it's estimated that it would take about 15 to 20 years for dinosaurs to reach full size, and in the movie it's shown over a very short period.
Even the amount of blood that they use in terms of it, they use a mosquito full of blood. We've looked at it, it's more like you need hundreds of mosquitoes across hundreds of different dig sites to even begin to build yourself a small dinosaur.
Yep. Also, in the movies it's shown that amphibian DNA is used to fill in the blanks of the genome, but in reality we now know that birds are more closely related to dinosaurs, so it would actually be a bird genome that would be used as opposed to a frog.
And because of that, there is essentially no animal alive today that would be able to carry a dinosaur egg to term without killing the animal and without the egg being unusable. So essentially, dinosaurs were the wrong way to go for Jurassic Park.
What they really should have been talking about is one of the following species. So these are species that are actually under consideration for de-extinction at the moment. So we have the giant sloth.
We've got the Cuban red macaw.
The New Zealand giant moa.
Tasmanian tiger up there in the top right.
There's also the American carrier pigeon.
Saber-toothed cat.
The dodo.
And of course the mammoth, the namesake of this debate. So in a bit of research into it, we decided to look into a recipe to make a mammoth. What you need to get together and the process you need to go through in order to build one.
So in order to make 1 to 2 woolly mammoths, you first need to get yourself a female elephant and leave it till it's approximately 12 years old.
And then on top of that, you need to have got your gathered DNA. We'll just assume that we've got a whole mammoth genome that's been isolated from all sorts of geological samples. On top of that, you need to then take the DNA and put it into the ovum without causing too much disruption to the cell.
The gestation period of elephants is around 21 months. So you would have to first allow the mammoth to cook for 21 months before getting a mammoth calf. But even here the genome would not be complete, so this would have to be repeated a couple of times before you're able to have one that's DNA was close enough to an actual mammoth.
To be able to call it a mammoth. So with that in mind, we were going to ask if anyone was going to hazard a rough guess that if we were to start right here today, if we were all to head away and start working on this project, how long it would take us to get into the first mammoth birth. Anyone's got a guess? Kevin, I know you've got a guess.
I'm going to be conservative and say 15 years.
Yep, it would probably be around about there.
So we've got the 12 years, we've got the 21 months per gestation cycle, but on top of that, the real problem is we don't actually have the knowledge to put this into practice. We've got the theory down, but we've not got the practice down. We've even got the DNA. We found a really well-preserved, scientists in Russia found a really well-preserved 30,000-year-old woolly mammoth calf, and it has almost a full genome, so they would be able to do that.
Ethically, the production of a mammoth is also completely unfeasible as well, because elephants are endangered and there's no way that you would secure a home license for animal experimentation using elephants.
So that's why, out of all of the things that were looked at, out of marketing from dinosaurs, out of looking at mammoths, we came to the unlikely hero, American carrier pigeon.
So this is Buttons, and she is the last known specimen of the American carrier pigeon, and she was named as such because when she was taxidermied, they put buttons in her eyes.
Yeah, she was shot in 1920 in Idaho, but the taxidermists were foresighted enough to be able to preserve some of the tissue, so we do have Button's complete genome frozen away for potential future use.
And obviously with the American carrier pigeon being quite similar to species that are still alive today, it is feasible and we do have a live animal model that could host.
So, on top of that, we've got all this lovely genetics. This is the technology that has really made it worthwhile and potentially useful within the next coming years. It's called CRISPR, which stands for clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. I'm not going to go too much into it because it's not a genetics lecture. Sorry everyone who came expecting that. But this is essentially the technology. It's a pair of molecular scissors which would allow us to go in and edit the genome to the way we want it to be able to produce the new species.
But we've been talking for long enough, so we're going to get on with the debate now. And we're going to hand over to Rosie, who is president of the Debating Society and our MC for this evening.
Alright. I just want to start by thanking you all for coming. It's really great to have a good turnout, and thank you very much to Callum and Steph for that introduction into the topic. General structure for the night is that we have a fourth side over here. We're going to let them talk for 10 minutes from an argument they've prepared, and then we will allow 10 minutes for the against side. There is also other members on down here in the front row, as we have a rebuttal, which will be 5 minutes for each team. And then after those, we will open up to audience questions, and you guys can tear into them. So just before we start as well, the motion is this House believes that de-extinction is ethical and beneficial. So I wondered if I could take a quick poll, and PowerPoint's failing me. Okay, yeah, so can I just ask who believes that de-extinction is both ethical and beneficial? Could you put your hand up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, that's great. And who is against this motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. And who is abstained? So they're not really sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great, thank you very much. So after that, can we just have 10 minutes for the foresight? Here we go.
Okay, we're here today to argue that de-extinction of extinct species is both ethically and practically the correct thing to do and a good thing to do. We believe this for a number of reasons. The first one concerning biodiversity and how de-extinction might improve biodiversity all over the world. Biodiversity, the number of different species available in one location, is something you want broadly. It's a large amount of biodiversity boosts ecosystem productivity, and a larger biodiversity means a larger range of plants and animals for humans to use, for humans to exploit. For example, in medicine, in commerce and agriculture, business, all of these things. There also could be social benefit of biodiversity. More animals to see, and more plants to see, and more different areas to visit could increase tourism. It could also be a benefit to education. If there's more there's more to teach about. And healthy ecosystems can also better withstand and recover from natural disasters, because if there are more different types of species there, it's more likely that some of them have the capacity to survive a disaster. De-extinction will increase biodiversity, not just because we are adding one more species to the range of species we have available, but because some of the species that we would add would increased biodiversity as a side effect of them being added, because they are species that are key to the natural order of that particular place. An example of this would be the reintroduction of wolves in Yellowstone, which Ailey is about to talk about.
The Yellowstone wolves were added in 1995, and they've increased the beaver population, which before they were reintroduced was just 1 colony of beavers to 9 colonies of beavers. So, and they've also changed the eating habits of the elk that lived there. The elk population was huge before the wolves were introduced, to the point where they were foraging plants way too much, not giving the plants enough time to recover. So with the wolf reintroduction, elk have become much more vigilant in terms of keeping an eye on the fact whether or not there are wolves about to hunt them, which means that plants such as willow have had more time to recover. The elk forage less for it, and willow is one of the key things that beavers need to survive. Another example of reintroduction that has helped the ecosystem is the reintroduction of the European beaver in Scotland. The beaver, in making its dams, has helped flood control, erosion control on the rivers, and it's increased the ecosystem resistance to potential disturbances. And it's also helped increase in pond and deadwood species. And it's also helped provide food and cover for adult and juvenile fish, and promoted regeneration of target species such as willow.
So yeah, as we can see, the reintroduction of wolves in Yellowstone, who were eliminated 70 years prior, increased biodiversity. A similar result could be attained from the reintroduction of extinct species to other areas. For example, the passenger pigeon, for example, lived in deciduous forests in North America. The reintroduction of the passenger pigeon could support more forests support more pigeons, and increase biodiversity. And while it was said that the mammoth would probably be impractical to bring back, if it were brought back, it might turn a lot of the northern Siberia tundra and forests, which have a relatively low level of biodiversity, back into the grassland that was previously sustained by the mega herbivores, foraging and knocking over trees and fertilizing the ground.
So as well as the whole species de-extinction, one of the things we think needs to be considered when talking about de-extinction is the fact that with reintroduced species, as an analogy, de-extinction can also be used for individual genes. So when you have a reintroduced species, a lot of the times over courses of generations, you lose biodiversity. Deleterious genes build up in the population because you have a small breeding population. So for example, with the Mauritius kestrel, which was reintroduced after the 70s, falling to a population of only 4 birds globally. About 25% of those birds, after a couple of generations, all the breeding pairs were very closely related, and we were losing about 1.6% of their genome every generation. And at that point, you get to a stage where you end up with only the deleterious copies of genes. And that's one of the big problems with reintroduction. You can use de-extinction of individual genes by taking healthy copies from banks of genetic material that we have in what are called frozen zoos, where we keep the genetic samples of endangered species. And you can actually reintroduce the healthy extinct gene into the animals, and you can drastically improve the diversity within the population, which again helps the reintroduction of an endangered, dying species back into the wild, and you can really help that species begin to flourish. Now I'm going to tap out for Dustin because I'm not well.